Thomas van Tonder, bro. Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to have you on here. You made me suffer a lot last year, and we'll get into that. But welcome and thank you. And it's an honor to have you on the show.
Shut. Likewise. It's always cool coming out to stuff like this and kind of exploring different worlds, and like there's a lot of things that go into my world that people don't know about, and vice versa, hey, like in what you do and so forth. So it's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me to your
little studio.
Tech bomb studio. No, it looks really good.
Yeah, no, there's lots of tech, lots of lights, lots of cameras, bro. And I really want to get into, the behind the scenes of warrior races, setting Guinness World Records, because that's, you've done amazing things. You've set records, you've won races, you've, really, I would say, based on what I've seen, have paved the way a lot for people in the country, and you build awareness around, the sort of events that you do. And I think that's fantastic. So let's start at the beginning. Let's start at, what was your first introduction into, fitness? This podcast is powered by Dis-Chem Living Fit. With a wide range of supplements and fitness products, they have the perfect product for you regardless of your goal. Dedicated and committed to providing expert sources of information that you can trust and rely on. They are here to motivate, guide, and inspire. Dis-Chem Living Fit, making healthy living easier. Back to the show.
Okay. Introduction to fitness. I guess yeah, you've introed me quite well there as people who don't know who and what I am. Obviously, I'm Thomas. Currently, if you want to make it sound real good and fancy, I'm a professional Red Bull obstacle course racing athlete. It's quite long for a bio name, but OCR for short, obstacle course racing. But pre that, if I have to go back to my base or my origin of fitness, I think I've always been a outdoor, kind of exploring, adventurous kind of person, just by nature. On school, did a lot of sports. Didn't really excel, or I was the best iconic person within any sports discipline, but always kind of good at everything. Kind of, I can do athletics, I can play cricket, I can play rugby. I played some provincial softball, but post school, I did about 3.5, almost 4 years of serious kickboxing.
Okay.
And that, I think, was my first real, let's take it serious fitness commitment, where I took the fitness as a serious thing and trained hard and wanted to excel. And there was actually a funny point where I had to decide. So when I discovered obstacle racing, and then I'll tell you a bit of story on how I stumbled upon this unique, crazy sport. But there was a time period where I'd had to choose whether I want to be racing or I want to be fighting, because I used to end up being so sore from all the fighting that I can't train for the racing.
So is this now fresh out of high school?
This is about, let's say 2 years after high school. So working as a bee farmer, believe it or not.
Okay.
Long story short, it was pretty cool.
So you live in Harties, just to paint the picture.
Yeah.
Where was this, at this time period, where were you staying? Was it in Harties?
So after school, I moved away from Harties for a bit.
So you went to school in Harties, grew up there?
School, yeah. Well, let's say anything high school, all Harties. Primary school, we actually stayed closer to let's call it the outskirts of Joburg. There's a place called Cosmo City. The whole of Cosmo City is like a big low-cost housing development area currently. That was fields and farms and so on. We stayed there as a family, kind of my dad.
So it's like a small holding type of thing.
Yeah. So we stayed in Joburg. I was born here in Joburg, and then kind of moved to Harties around 2005. So all of high school in Harties High, Hartbeespoort, incredibly beautiful area.
Amazing.
I think that really contributed to me growing into who I am. Just by being out there, being between those mountains and having all the adventurous outdoor things surround me more often. So yeah, there was this timeline now that we're talking about was just after high school, about 2 years out, and staying in Harties, going to a local kickboxing club there, and started working for a friend of mine's dad who had a construction company. So that's living there, working there, and from there, obstacle racing. Jeez. I was training for 947 Cycle Challenge. So I had a bike from a friend, nothing fancy. So doing this nice big loop right out, and I'm, doing my thing, and somehow, I get two flat wheels, 2 punches. And punches love me, and I'm like a puncher magnet. So I get two flat tires, and now here I am next to the road, pushing my bike. Not happy, with life. On my way back home, I saw this group of people like almost running out of the bush, covered in mud, like from head to toe, like a bunch of guys, all shirtless. You can see that they're pumped. They're doing something crazy. And I asked them, like, they storm out of the bush. They almost like look for where they need to go, and they storm off in a direction. And I almost yell at them, like, "Hey, gents, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing?" And like 2 or 3 of them partially turned around and just shouted back at me, "Warrior!" And I was like, what does that even mean, So these bunch of crazy guys, they continue off in the distance, and went home, fixed the bike. Long story short, the next day in the gym, there was a bunch of people talking about this warrior thing as well. I asked them, like, what is this all about? It seems mental. And they kind of explained to me, it's an obstacle race, and you run, and then traditionally there's like mud pits you have to like run through, and then a bit more standard obstacles, carrying sandbags, climbing ropes, like jumping over and under stuff, like think military boot camp vibes. For people who don't know what OCR is or what obstacle racing is, which is a lot of people. It's running race, and within the running race, you have like obstacles, which could really be anything. So I was in the gym talking to these guys about this obstacle race, and ironically did the next warrior race with friends from the kickboxing club as a rookie. And as we finished our rookie race, big duel.
What is the distance for this one?
So if I say rookie, there's within our South Africa, the biggest obstacle races, commonly known as the warrior race, and they have 3 main disciplines, being rookie, commando, black ops. It's like 5K, 10K, 15K, all roughly, a bit further, a bit shorter, but kind of short distance, middle distance, long distance. So we did the short one for fun, and as we finished, I saw the black ops elite athletes finish their race. And then another like light bulb went on, like, this is something you can do as a sport? You can race this? That's even more mental. So I thought, well, that looks really cool. I want to try my hand at this. And from there, I entered the next warrior race, and I can remember sitting there at the computer going like Black Ops, and then there's Black Ops Elite. And this elite title just seemed, that's for the... That's for the serious guys, and I don't think I'm ready for this yet. So I just choose normal Black Ops. So what that means is that if you're racing elite, like no assistance, you're going for podium prize money. You also start first on the day. You're the racing badge. And I started then 10 minutes behind what is the racing badge in a normal Black Ops badge, and thought to myself, okay, I'm going to start 10 minutes behind, and I'm just going to chase him down. Maybe I can catch one. Then I'll be pretty chuffed with myself. And started 10 minutes behind the first Black Ops athletes, and just went hard, raced my heart out. And as I came into the finish line, somebody told me, you're in second place. I'm like, no, you may be confusing, my second place in my heat or whatever. Like, no, you're like the first guy's over there. So I actually caught everybody besides one guy.
Who had started 10 minutes before you.
Who had started 10 minutes in front of me. So then I was like, I'm really good at this. Like, this is something I can do well at. So I entered another bunch of them. I came second again, then officially. And then I won like 3 of them in a row. It was like, okay, hey, Thomas, you're pretty good at this crazy sport. And that's my intro into the world of obstacle racing. By chance, finding a bunch of crazy dudes coming out of the bush covered in mud.
And I think what's awesome about this obstacle racing is, there's a lot of play involved. You know, it's carrying bags, it's, you know, swinging, going under nets, going in mud. So I think it's a lot of, you know, you almost feel like you're a kid again. So that level of fitness that obviously you need, it's you doing something that's slightly more than obviously just running or just climbing a mountain or just doing these certain things. It's like a lot of different things, you know, amalgamated into one. So I think it's cool, and also it's a little bit, you can feel like, you know, you're a bit childish in the situation, which also I think is the enjoyment aspect of it as well. Is, you know, you're just swinging on a jungle gym with your friends, but actually, you know, you're racing, and you're getting a good workout from it.
You're spot on. I think OCR or obstacle course racing is one of the sports that you need the most like diverse amount of skills to be able to be good at it. And
So let's name some of these skills that you would need.
so you need to be strong. Okay, you need to be able to handle your own body weight. Not strong in the sense of picking up something else. Strong as in being able to handle yourself. So strength in that aspect. So yeah, we do pick up some stuff as well. Then you've got to be agile. Like you've got to be able to jump over things and under things and like be comfortable to move as like functionally as a human, like we would have done, I don't know how many 100 years ago. Then you need speed. So even though you are strong, you still need to be able to be fast. Because if you're strong and you're slow, you can't win. If you're fast and you're not strong, you still can't win. So you kind of need that balance. Then you need grip strength. So then like in your upper body strength, be able to hang from something, which is a basic skill that we've kind of unlearned as humans just because we don't do it in our everyday life. A lot of people don't hang on anything. So you need to have like strength in your hands and in your forearms to be able to hang on something and while hanging move to something else like a monkey bars or ropes and so forth. So it's really an amazing balance between all these different skills, and obstacle racing, kind of having all those different skills at the highest possible level. And that's what makes a good OCR athlete. So it's difficult actually training everything. But I guess you focus on your weakest part and try and bring that up to your strongest part level. So for me, if I have to put it in context, the Europeans outrun me. I'm a quite big guy for a runner. So I've been working a lot on trying to just upskill myself in the running space, where my technique on a lot of the obstacles and my strength on a lot of the obstacles is really good just because of how I'm built. So I've been working a lot on running, specifically agility, explosive strength, and not so much on like the strength side of stuff, you know.
So, you know, let's look at, you know, the training aspect for these events. Because obviously, other than, you know, running and going through the motions of the actual obstacles, you also then will go and do rock climbing. And you obviously say you're working on the running. So, you know, let's talk about a little bit of that, you know, like the climbing aspect.
That's the fun part of being a obstacle racing athlete, is that it's difficult because there's so many different aspects you need to be good at, but it's also fun because you can do so many different things and it's still applicable as training on your racing. As in, I can go kayaking, I can go rock climbing, I'll go biking to a extent as well as cross training, but there's a broad set of things that I can do that are still applicable on racing. So yes, I can spend a good session in a rock climbing gym, upping like grip strength and grip endurance and so forth, and it's directly related to my racing. And I can go run with friends on a trail run in the mountains, and it's directly related to my training.
And you are in one of the best places in at least the Gauteng area, pretty much, that offers, you know, the types of terrain that you would need to do nice trail running. You know, when I was preparing for, you know, UTCT last year, it was almost every weekend that I was going to Harties, you know, going and doing different routes from different places because of the beauty of the area. And I've seen you also do some climbing up those mountains, like the vulture sanctuary there or whatever. And you do a lot of, do you plot routes for people to be able to climb? Because I've seen a lot of that on your story where it looks like you kind of, you know, plotting the climbing routes.
So I think, yes, that's something that's been really cool, is almost like a substandard word for what I feel doing. It's really something amazing and satisfying in a sense. So what you've been seeing there is we had a whole segment to the east side of what is the Hartbeespoort Cableway that had some old rock climbing routes on it. It was bolted by Pierre Carter and, excuse me if I don't remember the other guy's name, but some old routes, cool routes that they've put up, but the access to it was difficult. There wasn't really a path. There wasn't any system of where to go, where to book, how to access this, how does it work. So like being local there and being really involved in all these like spaces, I found myself in a position where I could help, set this all up. And we built some paths to the base of the cliffs and just to have it accessible. We cleaned it up. And when like finding and scouting all the current routes, we found there's so much potential for extra or new or rock climbing routes there that it'd almost be a shame if we don't develop it. We have all the access. We have the cableway on top of the mountain there. Let's put this thing together. So City Rock in Joburg, it's one of my sponsors, and they kind of supported me with some knowledge and some guidance initially with a bolting team. And so what that means, if I say bolting team, we'd go out to the rock and we've had a look at it and say, okay, like experienced climbers would make a call to say this would be a legitimately climbable route of about this difficulty. And then we go around to the top and we set up ropes and we come down and you're actually in your harness then on the cliff face and you see, is this climbable? Okay, yes it is, or no it's not. And if it is and it would make a cool route, they plan out where they would need to place bolts in the rock for you to be able to climb it as what they call a sports climbing route. It's where you have pre-placed anchors that you then can connect to as you climb. So we then place these bolts in the rock and it's then a accessible, safe, climbable rock climbing destination. So we've been working on that for quite some time, and you should come out so I can
I would love to
hang you from a rock somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. And also another thing that you've been actively involved in, and it was actually probably the first introduction for myself in terms of trail running and a trail running event. When I had just gotten into running last year at the beginning of the year, I didn't know what to do, where to go, what events to do. And I had a friend that, I think it was the Facebook page, just tagged me in the event, the Iron Throne Challenge or whatever it's called. And I was like, okay, cool, 21 Ks. I've done a half marathon on the road. I should be cool doing this. This was predating my understanding of elevation gain and all of those type of things. So, I was tagged in this. I was like, okay, well, this is cool. It's in Harties. It looks beautiful. Let's do it. I arrived there. It was pretty cold that morning, I remember. And, we go off, not understanding. You were kind of introducing the event to everyone on the day, and you were telling us that there's going to be a lot of climbing in this. Be prepared. This is a pretty, steep elevation, and just be careful at certain times, whatever. And then I went off. I did it, and I think it took me 3.5 hours for that half marathon, which was a relatively good time for myself, for what I thought, because of, my inexperience within trail running. And what an awesome event. I think it was like 1,600 meters of elevation in those 21 Ks. And I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I'm so glad I didn't know what I was getting myself into, because being as inexperienced as I was, I might not have done it. And now, obviously, enjoying it so much, I've signed up for the one now in April, the 15th of April. So what was your, hand in terms of that event?
Sure. Like, just imagining you rocking up there, not having any like proper trail running experience and taking on that event. Ouch. Wow. Well done, I guess.
Thank you.
So for context, you're referring to what we called then the Mahali's Rock events, or the Iron Throne Challenge, which we now kind of running under what is called the Harties Trail Experience. So Harties Trail Experience is aimed at building the first ever ultra trail run to circumnavigate Hartbeespoort. So linking up like all these amazing venues around Harties into one big loop. So for that to happen, we have 4 events in like the corners of what is Harties, and then having a 5th event which links them up. So you're referring to now, which is the 3rd event in this series, which is the Iron Throne Challenge. and this is hosted on the cableway mountain. Basically, the ridge line from where the Hartbeespoort cableway is to up about where the dam wall is, and there's no way you can really explore that ridge line without going up and down a couple of times. So we scouted and built a 21 kilometer route, obviously with a lot of permission from local property owners and private property owners, to build a route that would kind of showcase that whole ridge line. And that then ended up being or developed into what is known as the Iron Throne Challenge, or the used to be Magaliesbrock events. But it is easily one of the most difficult 21 kilometer runs in the country. Like the distance, yes, 21 Ks, but the elevation along with the difficulty of running there makes it that notch extra difficult. There's a lot of runs that has a lot of elevation and it has 21 Ks. So the up and down, yes, it's difficult, but the Magalies is just such an immensely technical, rocky place to run. There's no smooth part in it. And it's like this continuous strain on your legs and mentally just finding your feet the whole time. And that over 21 Ks, it just, it takes the just out of you. So we're hosting again. Switching up the route a little bit just to kind of, showcase a part of the mountain which we didn't before get to. But 21 Ks, a lot of elevation and vert in the event. But hosting that has been extremely satisfying in the sense of people rock up there, they go run this event. Half of them have no idea what they're in for. Some of them, come back like you and you have some context. But then taking on this challenge, and like halfway somewhere, I get some phone call or update saying like there's somebody here not looking too fresh. Maybe we should look at cutting them at the cableway and sending them down. And most of the times, these people end up finishing this event, obviously being completely shattered and broken and like tired, but feeling the world's amount of accomplishment. And it's that feeling that kind of brings them back. This was so tough, this was so hard, but look at what I just did. So that's seeing that and being able to like give that was been really cool. Yeah.
I want to talk about your Guinness World Record. Firstly, I want to obviously talk about how it came about, but initially I want to maybe talk about how do you go about setting a record? Did you do it and then you reach out to Guinness, or was it, how do you reach out to them, or how did it come about that you realized that you had broken a record?
So that was a really cool project. This was 2020. The world was in lockdown, no sporting events, and kind of chatting to my Red Bull team and like, guys, I have this idea. I think we can pull this off within COVID times. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to climb a 100-meter rope, okay, as in Manila, like, let's call it CrossFit gym rope, that like climbing rope. So we wanted to find a spot, hang a 100-meter rope and climb it, just as something cool and something like something hard enough that I can find like to set a goal personally that's so hard that it kind of scares me a bit, so I can really push myself and train for it, like in the times where there was kind of nothing to train for. So we are looking for a place, and eventually we scouted around with Soweto Towers, or Orlando Towers, as a lot of people know it, was definitely the spot to host it. They have massive pylons, and they actually have a bungee site. So there's a bridge between the two pylons of the cooling towers. But that was 96 meters high. So it was just short of 100. Like, okay. And then we realized, like, this might be some sort of world record. Let's check it out. So went onto Guinness site and so on. So how that process works is you log into their website, you see what kind of records there are to apply to break, or to attempt, and you apply for it, and it takes quite some time, but eventually they get back to you, and like you get a date and so forth. But if you want to kind of speed up the process, it's like a, let's call it VIP pass, shortcuts, kind of actually pay quite a lot of money. And they...
Fortunately, Red Bull was a part of it.
Yes, I must say, are fortunate. They helped a lot in that regard, but it also to help the timeline to get this doable within the year that we were aiming to do it. So you then apply for the record. Because this was something that was never really done before, it wasn't a record that they had parameters for in any regard. Like, you don't apply for something that someone has done before. You're now trying to log a new record. So it was quite difficult establishing all the parameters. Like, okay, to get the record, so the official record would be the fastest 50-meter rope climb. So based on time, not on distance, just so it's repeatable. Based on distance, like where do you stop? Like, you're going to find the highest tower in the world and have to climb it, and that's kind of the highest, so nobody would ever break it again. So we based it on time, fastest 50-meter rope climb, and there's a bunch of stuff in it that you kind of don't expect pre-record, where you have to like capture a whole bunch of things to prove that you did it right. You started below your 0 meter mark. You have a camera on a timer all the time and a camera on you all the time. Like, and you submit all that footage to them so they can actually look at it start to finish. There's no cuts in it. You actually climbed the whole rope. This was this full time. And they then review that and decide, okay, yes, you did legitimately break this Guinness World Record. Then you get like the actual certificate and so forth, which is quite cool. So we officially set the Guinness World Record for the fastest 50-meter rope climb, which was 3 minutes and 18 point something seconds. And the full then 96-meter summit of the Soweto Orlando Towers in 9 minutes something. That was hard. That was so hard. That was the difficult thing. Yeah.
Are you attached to a harness? Because I assume you would need to be.
No, for what? No, joking. Yes, for sure. Safety on this project was next level. Yes, so had a safety line attached all the way. Somebody at the top, you'll see there's a 15-minute documentary on this on Red Bull TV or Red Bull.
Okay, on like their YouTube channel or their
like the Red Bull TV.
Okay, I've seen on my TV, on the smart TVs, there's a channel,
Yes.
Red Bull, okay.
So on there, you can search for Rising with the Sun. That's what we titled the project. And it'll come up, there's a 15-minute documentary on like the whole process.
I'm definitely going to watch that tonight.
So you should.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. I even watched it myself a week or two back. We had some inspirational thing we did with a group of people. And it's quite cool looking back at it and seeing like, oh, wow, I remember that. And that was so difficult. And I think the most difficult thing with climbing the rope is your hands get so tired that you need to rest your hands. And then I have a technique where I'd wrap the rope around my feet and kind of sit on my feet to try and rest my hands. But then your feet get tired. So eventually it's like this fighting battle between what do you really want to hurt, your hands or your feet? Like,
and then also that resting period is increasing the time of the climb.
Increasing the time. So it's quite a challenging thing to do. Never mind just climbing rope in itself. Like, if you guys are curious about it, go to a CrossFit gym, find a 5-meter rope and
even that's tough.
Even that's for some people tough.
Yeah. Well, not for you.
Yeah, okay, true, but it's almost unfair to compare. Like, this is what I do. You know?
So, have you seen anyone ever try beat this? Or obviously you wouldn't really know unless someone maybe did. But what have you seen in terms of people trying to beat your record now that you were the first one to set it?
That's I actually want people to try it. It's like, imagine if Usain Bolt ran 100 meters, but he's the only person running.
It's not that cool. No one knows.
How do you know if you're fast or not?
Yeah.
Like, you're like, yeah, I feel pretty fast, but am I? So I'm actually keen for some people to go out there and try it. I know it's technically quite a logistical thing to set up. Even finding a 50-meter or 100-meter rope is quite difficult. There has been some people that posted videos of climbing a 100-meter rope, just as in then the longest continuous rope climb ever done. But, excuse me, nobody's kind of attempted that 50 meters for time. There has been some people reaching out to me on social media doing 50 meters on a 5-meter rope. Like, so they'd climb it. Sorry, my watch is...
It's telling you need to go rope. You need to go climb something.
Let me just get this done. technology, gift and a curse. So there's been some people that reached out to me on social media and like, hey Thomas, I'm going to attempt to break this record, and they then have a shorter rope, so they just climb a bit and then come back onto the ground and climb it again. But it's almost every time you climb onto the rope, you win 2 meters of rope just by holding onto it. So it's you can't really compare, and you don't have that stacking of fatigue which you would have on like this continuous climb.
Of course.
So there's some people tried that, but nobody's kind of simulated what we did and smashed it for time. Not yet. Not that I know of.
Yeah. Well, hopefully someone tries, just to obviously add credibility to what you did, you know. So were you on the 2020 book inside? Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Is that, you obviously, did they give you one? Did they send one to you, or did you have to go like Kumbooks and buy one?
Yeah, I actually don't have the book currently. But yeah, they put it in the book. It's weird from Guinness World Record side. Once they saw the credibility of this whole project and kind of where we're going with it and the scale of where it would go out to, they were quite keen to get involved from their end to publish it on their pages. And because there's so many people setting records these days for like how many coconuts can you smash with your forehead within 2 minutes, and like
silly things that aren't really like, yes, you obviously need a strong head to do that kind of thing, but it's, you know, what you did is like a feat of the human body, you know.
So that's why they were so keen. There's not a lot of those going around anymore. So from their side, they were actually pretty keen to support it and kind of put it out on their channels, which was pretty cool.
That's cool. And, you know, obviously setting a record like that, have you ever thought about, you know, you want to set something else, set some other record?
Yes. There's one or two things that has come to mind. Nothing that we've locked down as a next project, but we thought about taking the same concept just onto another level, where like in South Africa we have one of the highest, if not the highest, bungee in the world, like from a bridge called Blokrans in the Cape, and we thought about climbing that. It's like 300 odd meters,
sure,
which would be a beast of a whole other level. But we decided to not climb ropes we've climbed a lot of rope now. Let's do something else, and we'll probably come back to that and do it in the future. But for now, we have obstacle racing world championships in September in Belgium.
Okay.
And there's another federation having also a world champs in California a bit later the year, October-ish. So it's hard training for being in competitive racing shape and at the same time doing an odd project like this. So it took me a good 5 months of conditioning to be able to be strong in rope climbing. So currently focus on racing, like focusing on what we call the short course, which is about 3Ks, and possibly sprint course, which is like 100 meters. That's quite insane.
So like, let's break down that 100 meters. What type of obstacles are in that 100 meters?
100-meter sprint obstacle race is usually a lot of agility stuff. So nothing like big that'll really slow you down. They try and keep it like super high paced. So you have like balls you have to jump over, stuff you have to go under like a cargo net or something like that. And then usually swingy stuff like 4 or 5 rings you have to like swing from one to the other. They have like a big ramp at the end sometimes that you have to run up and tag a timer. So it's about, I would say, 8 to 10 obstacles, like every 10 meters. There's something to go through, but it's you see some of the paces on those things. Like, it's, if you miss something even by the slightest margin, you fall behind. So it's such a high focus event that you have to get a list of so many things exactly right at an insane intensity to be able to win an event like that. So usually quite explosive people come like that. People that have that burst from the one obstacle into the other, into the other, into the other. And you only realize how tired you're getting once you're done. Like, phew. So it's quite hard.
And now, I don't know if you'll know the history and the genesis of, you know, warrior race in general, or even obstacle racing. You know, did that come about? Was it, because these similar things were used in the military, or did they start using these kind of things in the military because of the events that people were doing?
So obstacle racing as a sport is actually quite young, compared in sports like rugby, cricket, or anything like that. But it's originated more out of, I want to say fun events, but these events gained popularity mostly in the US and the UK and Europe before we kind of picked up on it in 2014 around there in South Africa. And there's a whole documentary on why do people pay money to go suffer? Like, and some of these races would be like they'd set up stuff with tear gas which you have to like crawl through, and it'll be super cold and these massive obstacles, and it'd send you through the water, and people would be like, yeah, bring it on. You're like, why? And it kind of came down to in essence that society and life these days, we're surrounded in these like perfect safe bubbles where nothing can really harm us ever, and life is just, we killed off all the predators and we have nothing to be afraid of, and we're not really made for that. We're savages. We needs that thrill of like the hunt, like that adrenaline, or like facing something dangerous and coming out the other side, and like, yeah, I survived this. And I think, and the documentary also explains, it's called Rise of the Sufferfest, the docu. Really good. Also explains that like, we believe that this explosion of obstacle racing went about just because of that factor. You'd come and do this warrior race and it'll be super challenging. You'd have to jump off a really high thing. You'd have to go through something that looks really scary and intimidating. And at the end, you feel amazing, having conquered all of this and realizing that, I'm stronger than I look. I can actually do these things. And that sense of accomplishment is the sense that's missing in everyday life and what people come back to. And I think that's why it's just exploded. Okay, COVID, brought it down a bit, so now it's normalized. But yeah, that's the why, I think.
I saw obviously a car seat in your car, so you obviously have kids.
I do.
A kid.
I have 2 kids.
2 kids.
2 little ginger ninjas. Boy, Sebastian, is about 3.5, and then little girl, Mika, she's about 1.5. Both gingers, like in full-blown gingers. Like,
are you relatively ginger, or is it your wife?
It's actually my gran and my one aunt, and like my wife's dad as well. So it's kind of, an odd side of the families on either side. Not myself, my wife carried the gene. Well, we carry it, but don't express it. And yeah, the first baby was like, oh, he's a ginger. That's really cool. Ed Sheeran changed life for gingers, whatever. It's like, it used to be a mockery, now it's really cool. Like, Ed Sheeran, my guy. Thank you.
And it's interesting how, I don't know why people were making a mockery of certain like gingers and all of that. I don't understand what it was, but I think any group, a marginalized group, a smaller group of society, are usually the ones that are, because it's easier to make fun of them because there's less of them.
Yeah.
So I think that's just as humans, the human condition, unfortunately, is you're not the same as me, so I'm going to treat you differently.
Yeah, I think we can see that in a whole bunch of different scenarios, but that's so true. It's just someone or something different. Kids can be nasty.
Yeah, because kids will be just so blatantly honest.
Yes.
That they might not, obviously they could be intentionally nasty, but sometimes, like, if you really want to know if your outfit's nice, just ask a kid. If you really want to know, did you enjoy this, ask a kid. Because they'll sometimes, a lot of the time, just be honest, not intentionally trying to hurt you, but they're just giving their honest opinion, because there's that no filter of, is this person going to judge me because I'm saying this?
Yeah.
So now with these kids, obviously you mentioned, how we're just living in such luxury nowadays, and we just, not really having to fight for anything, and we're not really having to exert ourselves, the way we might have had to in the past when things were more difficult. How are you raising them in terms of, yes, I want to provide an amazing life for you, but also you need to realize that the moment you leave this house, the world's a tough, harsh place. So, do you implement some of those lessons that obstacle racing has obviously taught you?
Yes, I think so.
Obviously, it's only 3 years old, so it's difficult to find that balance.
Yeah, it's they are still quite young, but I mean, 3 years of life already. So I would say for sure I do implement some of the lessons I've learned through specifically that, I guess, in life as well, but in obstacle racing and kind of facing those challenges. And I guess in principle it comes down to letting them experience something which they're going to struggle with, and not just going, oh, let me help you with it. Helping them in that sense actually doesn't help them. Where, like, if you think about yourself and stuff you'd had to figure out and things you were faced with in a controlled manner, I guess, but the things you were faced with that you didn't really know how to do, that you struggled with for weeks, but once you figured it out, you now know how to do that. And if somebody were to come in and do it for you or help you with it, it wouldn't have influenced you as much. So I try to be conscious of not just jumping in and helping them with every single thing. Like, I can see, oh, you're struggling, let me help you. Obviously don't let them suffer, but in a controlled manner, let them be on the edge. Let them see this is high. If I step down this and if I touch this, it's hot. Like, let them just be on that edge and kind of, experience a bit of difficulty, and that difficulty will actually shape them. That's my opinion.
Have you maybe seen it if they're playing on a jungle gym or something along those lines, like kind of mimicking you through your events? Like, do you see some interest in terms of, they may be seeing a video of you doing something, or obviously watching you live, then now they, recreate this in their play environment?
They do for sure. They pick up on anything so quick. It's insane. But I do a lot of like functional training at home, and squats and planks and lunges and stuff, functional stuff. So I usually tell them, like, they got to leave me alone now because Papa gaan oefen. Papa's gonna train now. And then they would also go and like fetch a little towel and put it on the floor, like, I gaan ook oefen, and then it like do mini squats and things, just as like they do what you do. So for sure. But from my side, I think a lot of people's joking and have these like expectation that I would now raise them to be this hardcore obstacle racing kids. So just because that's what I've been doing. And obviously this is still very small, but really not. I wasn't pressured as a kid to by any means into any direction, and I kind of had to find what I would like to do by myself, and then I was supported in that direction. So I would kind of just, learn them to be good, decent human people, and let them find their way in what they like and don't like, and I'd support them to grow in that. We'll see how it goes.
That's awesome. So when did you say your next event is? Because you just completed one this past week.
Racing or hosting?
Racing. You yourself as an athlete, yeah.
Okay. So competing currently, we're looking to try and get into Europe or possibly the US within the next 2 to 3 months. I haven't locked down a specific event, but our championship season in obstacle racing is usually later the year, September, October, around there. And I'd like to have the opportunity to go over and race against some of the Europeans, race against some of the guys in the US, and kind of see what does the international competition look like currently. Because it's really hard rocking up at World Champs, racing against a bunch of people you haven't raced since 2019. Where am I at? Like, what is my level compared to theirs? What do I need to work on? Who's the biggest competition? And you have a good sense of it by just following other events. But I'd really like to get to Europe or the US and just go do 1 or 2 races if everything aligns. And then it's come back to South Africa. We have 1 or 2 more warrior races coming up, and then the biggest one of the year is the 2 different World Championships events, one in Belgium and one in California so far. Flying to California is crazy, but yeah, it's really cool.
And if someone wants to get involved in doing a warrior race or an equivalent type of thing, where should someone, obviously depending on their fitness level, but let's say for me now, I have done marathons, I've done ultras. what for me who's never done an obstacle course, what should I do? And then also maybe what should someone do as a first time?
Okay. Look, Warrior Race is the local or like biggest best experience of what obstacle racing is like out there. So that would be my suggested target event for anybody who hasn't done an event looking for like a quality experience. Sign up for one of the rookie races, the short ones, and just go have fun. Like, don't set an expectation. Don't feel pressured that you need to now have this rigorously planned obstacle racing workout regime. Like, train to be able to handle your body weight, train to be able to hang on something and jump over something, enter a rookie race with some mates and just go enjoy it, go conquer it. That'll be my advice to somebody looking to try OCR for the first time. Somebody who's a bit more experienced and has a bit more fitness, maybe someone like yourself, the rookie might be too easy because it's catered for like the everyday person, the weekend warrior, the masses. So everything's kind of designed just to be as fun as possible. Where if you're looking for a bit more of a challenging yourself, I'd say go for the middle distance, the commando warrior race, and try your hand at it. Like,
could anyone just go and enter the Black Ops one, or do you have to qualify, or anyone can just go?
No, if you think you're strong enough,
do it.
You can just enter it. And usually people have been quite afraid of entering the Black Ops race or the Black Ops Elite. Just because of closer to the end, there's one or two like bigger obstacles where you need a lot of grip strength to be able to get through it. But there's been a bit of a rule change locally, internationally, as part of a federation coming in, kind of governing the sport of obstacle racing. And essentially, usually you'd have a mandatory obstacle completion structure, meaning if you complete all the obstacles, this is now a bit more for the elite batch, not the everyday batch. If you want to be eligible for podium and prize money, you have to complete all the obstacles. So some people would not enter Black Ops being afraid that they can't complete it and then can't finish and then technically DQ. Where now they've implemented a system where you have 3 DQ bands or 3 bands, and you would have the bigger, more intimidating big obstacles would be like A grade, B grade. So the A grade ones would be more difficult. If you fail an A grade obstacle, you would lose 1 band and you would continue. You have the option to fail 2 of them, so you still have 1 band left. And then before the finish line, if you have 2 bands gone, you'd have to do 2 penalties, carry a sandbag, around a loop, whatever they decide the penalty is. Obviously equivalent to what the obstacle was. Big obstacle failure, bigger penalty. So you could then still race, you could fail on 2 of the big obstacles, you could do your penalties, and you can still officially finish as a racer, which kind of makes it really, really cool. It changes up the dynamic a bit of the race, but it makes it then accessible and doable to officially complete the race for people who want to try their hand at it, which I think is incredible for the sport.
So when's the next best one? If someone, watching this, or even myself, it's like, okay, well, it's in 4 weeks, 8 weeks. So when's the next one for people to enter? If you know,
I think it's about 2 months.
Okay.
I think I'm under correction now. I'll have to double check. Our next Warrior race is in KZN.
Okay.
So they take it all around the country. We have KZN, we have Cape Town, and then we have Gauteng again. So next one's KZN. I'll have to go check the date.
But roughly the next 2 months.
About 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah. I think just check out Warrior Race website. All the info would obviously be there. About 2 months time, KZN. KZN is always cool. Like they have some really nice venues there.
Where do you know where in KZN it's going to be?
Probably it's usually close to Belito.
Okay.
Around that area, depending on the venue. They've announced a venue now a week or so ago. So I'm not too up to date with where the venue is. It's a new venue, but it's around there somewhere. Okay. Usually not too far from Durban itself.
Awesome. Well, bro, I want to thank you so much for coming on, for sharing, your journey and your story. And, if anyone wants to try break your record, I think they should try. Maybe get in touch with you for some training to break a record like that. But yeah, Thomas, thank you so much, bro. I really appreciate it.
Hey, pleasure being here. I agree. If anybody wants to try the record, I'll be more than willing to help you and show you what I did to try and achieve it. Like, I won't be all sneaky about it. Like, chat to me. Let me know if you want to try it. Let's see if somebody can break my record.
Or maybe you should try break it.
Or maybe I should try break it. No, first I want to leave it out there. Let's see what people can do. There's crazy, freaky people in the world that can do incredible stuff. So I'm
True.
pretty sure there's somebody that can do it. But thanks. It's an absolute pleasure being here.
Oh, bro, it's awesome. Thank you. This podcast is powered by Dis-Chem Living Fit. With a wide range of supplements and fitness products, they have the perfect product for you regardless of your goal. Dedicated and committed to providing expert sources of information that you can trust and rely on. They are here to motivate, guide, and inspire. Dis-Chem Living Fit, making healthy living easier.
Let's fall in love. Didn't have a cup of coffee. Let's go.